This is the Film Geeks podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to a brand new, exhilarating, breathtaking, and a spellbinding edition of the Film Geeks podcast powered by Indian Dub. This is your host Abhishek, and joining me as always are Arindam and Anir. And we have a couple of guests lined up for you all tonight, because this has been a huge week for films and TV that we all of us love and would, we're waiting for all this while. The past couple of weeks, past month in fact, was very slow on the news, but this week there has been a huge amount of news coming in this week. Apart from the Star Wars news, of course, there has been trailers of Thor Ragnarok, which dropped earlier this week, and this, in fact, it has been so big this week that Thor Ragnarok, it seems like it came out a lifetime ago. So before we move on to all of these news, how are you guys doing? How has this week treated you?
What a week it has been to be a fan, to be a nerd, to be a geek. Everything that we love has, delivered to some extent. There have been good comics out, there have been good movie trailers out that I just can't wait to watch this year. This year is going to be great, unless, there's a nuclear war that we're looking ahead in the next few weeks. All should be good.
That was very optimistic. Let's hope not.
Let's hope it doesn't happen, because I really don't want to miss out on fucking Star Wars, dude.
Yeah. If a nuclear bomb drops, I think you have got your priorities very straight. If a nuclear bomb drops, then forget everything. You won't get to watch the latest Star Wars. That's your priority. I think this has been a great week. There was a lot of this was an extended weekend, so we got to catch up, I guess, on a lot of those things. This wasn't one of those weeks where we had to scramble to watch everything at the last moment and prepare our notes on things. I think that makes it easier for us to give a more unbiased and probably a more concise review of things that hopefully you guys will like.
It was not a 3-day weekend for me, because I had to go to work on Friday. Because of the news that we have lined up for all of you people out there, we're going to have reinforcements on this edition of the Film Geeks podcast. We're going to have a couple of our friends join in and pitch in their thoughts about some of these things which we're going to talk to all of you about. Firstly, serious business, we have a Film Geeks podcast page up on Facebook. So check out the description below. We have our links down there, so might as well go on to that page if you like the content which we try to provide for you guys. Give that page a like, show your support. It's all for free. Just check it out. It's on the description below. And secondly, what the fuck is going on with Jude Law being cast as Dumbledore? If you have heard the news, Jude Law, who has worked with WB before and who was cast as John Watson in the previous 2 Sherlock Holmes movies directed by Guy Ritchie, and who is cast as a villain in the next Guy Ritchie movie, which is going to be releasing next month, called King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Jude Law has won the role that Warner Brothers previously considered Christian Bale, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Jared Harris, the son of Richard Harris, who originally plays Dumbledore. So he has been cast in this role, and he'll be playing this role in the second and the third entries of the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them franchise, which are scheduled for release in November 2018 and November 2020 respectively. I did not, in my wildest dreams, could imagine Jude Law playing this role. What did you guys make of this casting choice?
I am not looking forward to a movie starring Jude Law and Johnny Depp. I think that ship has sailed. They could have made such better choices. I don't know why they didn't go with much more like... I don't think this is a left field choice. In fact, I think there's a very safe choice for them to opt for Jude Law. There could have been better character actors, but they went for a totally bland actor. I don't really like this fellow. And if they even cast Orlando Bloom, that would been a better thing. And it would be pirates, but who cares? And nobody will care. This is the way that you tank a franchise. I'm not looking forward to this at all.
Actually, one thing that bothers me the most about this casting is that Jude Law is bald as fuck. He used to be balding right when there was Road to Perdition, if you remember it. Now he's gone completely like bonkers bald. And you're casting him in the role of Dumbledore, who has a flowing mane of hair.
Waist long.
And it's like you're trying to sell it. But the problem is, right now, there will be so much discussions around this casting. You're going to see the Jude Law as Dumbledore, right? So you're always going to connect him with that role. So you're going to be imagining Jude Law, not Dumbledore, a younger Dumbledore, which means that you'll always be thinking about his bald head. And for me, that's the first thing that came to my mind. What a shitty casting. I don't know why they did it. I can imagine a couple of reasons, but I can't in my wildest dreams imagine. Like, first of all, Johnny Depp was a shitty casting. We know it because when we saw it, we realized that it was probably a last minute casting. And when it happened, it was just something that irritated the fuck out of you when you watch the movie. So it was something that took you completely out of it. But now with Jude Law being cast, something is wrong with the casting director. That much is for sure. And that much has to be sorted out because, it was very apparent. I liked Colin Farrell in that role. By the time, he transformed into Johnny Depp, I was like, what the fuck? It was okay if it was Colin Farrell, but Johnny Depp just looked out of sort. He's not that menacing character anymore. And with Jude Law, I don't think he'll do justice. He's there in the current King Arthur movie also. So again, I don't know. I think he has fallen on really tough times, man.
Jude Law, like you mentioned, once you said Road to Perdition, that is one of my favorite roles that Jude Law has ever done. Also, he was amazing in The Young Pope. So, in a negative role, if he was given the role of Grindelwald, I would have loved it. But as Dumbledore, I still don't see him doing anything much for me.
The thing with the Dumbledore casting as well, now a lot of young listeners might disagree with me, but Harry Potter, with the exception of Snape and the titular characters of Harry Potter and his merry band of friends, I don't think any of the characters are iconic. You don't like, for example, like we're going to talk about later on in the show, Princess Leia is iconic because of Carrie Fisher. Han Solo has been in the public eye as Harrison Ford's portrayal because of Harrison Ford's portrayal. I don't think Michael Gambon or Richard Harris are known for this role of Dumbledore. So I think that is a problem in itself. And considering Dumbledore plays such a huge role, and so I don't think this story is about Newt Scamander anymore. This story is going to be about these fucking people whose stories have already ended. For a serious film goer or even for a serious Harry Potter fan, I really think that this story does anything of any consequence. You know the story of Voldemort. Voldemort kicked the shit out of Grindelwald when they met for a very brief period in the books, and even in the movies. For a Harry Potter fan, I'm not really interested in this film anymore. So I'm speaking about things which I'm really interested in. There have been various actors who were being considered to play Cable in next year's Deadpool sequel. Some names that were bandied about were Pierce Brosnan, Liam Neeson, Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights, Stephen Lang from Avatar, David Harbour from Stranger Things, and most recently, Michael Shannon, who played General Zod in Man of Steel. But all of these speculations finally came to an end this week, and it turns out that the actor cast as the time-traveling future soldier Nathan Summers was a name which was not even being considered in all of this discussion that came before. And the name which finally dropped was Josh Brolin. Now, Josh Brolin, as you already know, has established quite a career in his comic book-based movies that he has been a part of. He plays Thanos in the MCU. He plays a young Agent K in Men in Black 3. And he was also a part of a DC film called Jonah Hex quite a few years ago. Josh Brolin, of course, joins Ryan Reynolds and Zazie Beetz, who plays a fan-favorite Domino, in next year's Deadpool sequel, which comes out earlier in February. This is an amazing cast. This is a complete left-field cast, like I said. What did you guys make of Josh Brolin as Cable? Let's start with you, Anir.
I'm actually on the fence on this one. I know that he has quite a good history with all the comic book characters that he has played, and I didn't like Jonah Hex, by the way. But apart from that, he has been part of fantastic movies. He has always been proving his acting chops. But I always imagine him with a certain role. So when you talked about him being casted as Cable, it was something that I couldn't bring myself to sort of relate to because I don't imagine Cable being somebody with a certain role. Of course, he might have that in real life. So I'm still on the fence on this one. As far as the look and feel of things go, I think I am very satisfied because I think he'll probably do justice to the role. So I'm actually okay with that casting in that sense. So as I said, I'm on the fence. I'll hope for the best.
He is a fantastic actor, don't get me wrong, but I'm sick of seeing him in a comic book movie. He has been everyone. But just look at Deadpool, what they were doing with the movie and itself. I'm pretty sure that he'll nail the character and everything. But I would have loved to have seen Pierce Brosnan play Cable. It's been a long time since we've seen him do a good mainstream movie, and I think he was due that. So the James Bond, 90s James Bond fan in me really would have loved to have seen him play a Cable, like play a straight, maybe there would have been comedy infused in him because we aren't really used to seeing him in very serious roles. And that is why, come to think of it, Josh Brolin will nail it because that deadpan sort of humor will go perfectly along with it. So I'm looking forward to it, but I really wish it would have been someone else.
Has there been a Josh Brolin film since the 80s where he has been a part of a comedy film? I think not, right? So I think with the acting chops that obviously he has, and like you said earlier as well, he has nailed the deadpan humor in Men in Black 3. And I really thought that Men in Black 3 was one of the better Men in Black films in the franchise. So I really hope that, he brings a little bit of that shtick in the Deadpool sequel as well. The production troubles that Deadpool 2 has gone through is well documented, but I think they're doing it right because I really have faith in Ryan Reynolds and because this has been a labor of love for him, and I really hope that this movie actually goes on to be one of the better comic book sequels because as we know, comic book sequels really don't have a good track record. In fact, sequels don't have a very good track record. Moving on from that to something completely original, let's speak about Beatriz at Dinner. This is a Miguel Arteta directed and Mike White written film which tackles several Trump-era issues, including racism, social inequality, and immigration. And this film premiered at Sundance Festival in January this year, and the trailer dropped sometime this week. And this has a fantastic cast. In fact, John Lithgow plays this character called Strut, a real estate developer, while Beatriz was being played by Salma Hayek as an immigrant from Mexico who works as a spiritual health practitioner in Los Angeles. The pair meet at a dinner held by mutual well-off client friends. And obviously shit hits the fan when race-related comments are thrown towards Salma Hayek's character. The film also stars Chloe Sevigny, Connie Britton, Jay Dupla, David Wachowski, and it releases on June the 9th, 2017. Straight off the bat, I'll be very honest, I did not like this trailer. I thought it was very on the nose. I didn't think it was very subtle. Yes, it's getting rave reviews, but that doesn't mean that it might be a very good film. Look at the filmography of Terrence Malick, for example. That guy gets rave reviews all the time, but his films are nothing much to look at. I really didn't think that this film, is any good. I'm not really interested to watch this film. I know Arindam is really high on this. Let's hear your thoughts first. What did you make of it, and why has this caught your fancy more than at least me?
One reason, John Lithgow. He's just great as a villain. We saw him play a terrific villain in Dexter as the Trinity Killer. He was also amazing as Churchill in The Crown, which was a Netflix show. And also I've been watching Trial and Error, in which he plays a bumbling fool. But I think he's best when he portrays a villain. And political comedies in smaller, intimate settings are really well done, in my opinion. Movies like My Dinner with Andre, in which they talk about life in itself, and Carnage by Roman Polanski. It's basically about two set of parents meeting when their kids get into a fight. So stuff like this, there's a small setting, but you put in great actors with great dialogue and we get magic. Also, Man from Earth is a great example of that. And I think the political undertones is a representative of a wealthy Republican sort of guy who lives in a gated community. And it's probably the first time he faces an immigrant who has made it. So I think it's quite intriguing given today's current political climate that we see every time. And it reminded me a lot of Bill O'Reilly, who's in the news for all these charges. And I think John Lithgow was channeling some of that. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Well, there's a word that I'm going to invent for this. So you've all heard of blaxploitation, right? I'm going to call it politicoploitation, because it sort of seems like that kind of a movie which is currently you're trying to exploit the current political scenario that exists in the US. I'm no one to be making comments, but I've always been one who has not been drawn into the whole Hillary versus Trump debate, because I actually feel like he has been very smart, but at the same time he hasn't done anything in terms of political steps that warrant the hatred that he is getting. Of course, that might not be true. Again, I'm no one to be making that judgment. This movie, it has a fantastic cast. I think the Duplass brothers are two of the finest filmmakers out there. They make fantastic TV series. They make fantastic movies. John Lithgow, I've been watching Trial and Error, and I just love that show. He's brilliant in everything he does. As the bumbling idiot, he is spot on. And I think in Dexter, we had one of the finest Dexter villains ever being portrayed by him when he was portraying the Trinity Killer. And that in fact was one of the best seasons for Dexter, in my opinion. It's very sad that it ended on the note that it did. But that season was amazing, and that was purely because of John Lithgow. So I'm sure that his portrayal will be spot on. So we have got nothing to complain when it comes to the cast itself. We have got Chloe Sevigny, we have got Jay Duplo. But that said, it just feels like it's too opportunistic. I like my films to be more subtle. If you look at Get Out, which came out recently and is a fantastic movie, Get Out is more subtle when it comes to talking about the issues that plague the society, current political scenario right now in the US. But this movie is more in your face, which I'm not a big fan of. So I'm not really very impressed by the premise of this movie. But then again, this might do well for all we know.
Moving on from something very heavy to move on to something really more light and comedic. Let's go on and talk about the next trailer which dropped this week, and that was the Hitman's Bodyguard, a film which is directed by Patrick Hughes, the guy who directed Expendables 3, and written by Tom O'Connor. The film stars Ryan Reynolds, Samuel L. Jackson, Gary Oldman, Elodie Young, and Salma Hayek again. And the premise of this film is of a bodyguard played by Ryan Reynolds who takes on his former nemesis, a hitman played by Samuel L. Jackson, as a client so that they can defeat an evil dictator played by Gary Oldman. From all accounts, this looks like a very fun film. The action is great. The dialogue is fucking amazing. I'm not really sure how much of that original tone will be shown in the theaters here in India. So I'm not really sure how much of that will be retained. But all in all, it looks like a very fun film. The only dampener being the director, Patrick Hughes, who was a part of Expendables 3. But then again, Expendables 3 never really had great actors. It looks like a really fun ride. What did you guys think? Let's start with you, Arindam.
I think we saw different trailers because I thought this was one of the worst trailers that I've ever seen for an action comedy. It had a very bad use of I Will Always Love You. The jokes fell flat for me. It did the impossible. It made Samuel Jackson's use of the motherfucker, which is normally very poetic in nature, this seemed forced. And I think the director did not see the other guys. He literally repeated the same scene that he did with The Rock and the other guys. He jumps from the ceiling and he doesn't make it. Over here, he barely makes it. So I really did not like this trailer, and I did not know that it was directed by the guy who made Expendables 3. So I think that's indicative of how the movie will end up. I don't think Ryan Reynolds will be able to salvage it. It looked like a very quick job, and I have very low expectations. I'll be pleasantly surprised if it does well, but if this trailer is an indication, I think it'll fall flat hard.
See, the thing is, over time, both of these characters, I'm talking about Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson specifically, they have grown into the characters that they have been portraying online. Now we'll always associate. It's true, right? You can't help it, but it's true. You know that Sam Jackson is that guy, the motherfucker guy, and then Ryan Reynolds is the wise.
Even Ryan Reynolds
is the wise.
Ryan Reynolds refers to him as it, he doesn't use the word motherfucker properly or something like that. He has ruined the use of the word motherfucker. That's an actual dialogue.
Even this movie, right? It feels like people are just trying to cash in on those characters that have been built by public perception. And so in that way, it's a good marketing strategy, I feel. But does that translate into a good movie? I didn't get that from the trailer. Honestly, I didn't. I wish I did, but it feels like all of these movies that are coming up right now, which has really great action scenes and has a ton of comedy in it. Those are type of movies that didn't sort of get made 2-3 years ago, but have become all the rage right now, and it's something that people are generally trying to cash in on, and that itself is something that spoils the whole genre, and this is something that might be sort of the tipping point, I feel like it, and because it's so generic in the way that it's approaching, is what I got from the trailer at least, is that it'll fall flat. Now see, we all think of Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool right now. And the thing is, he had delivered a string of flops, huge big budget flops. You can't forget that. And he, to such an extent that people had actually stopped rooting for him. He was such a good wisecracking guy that you always tended to sympathize with him, and you always wanted him to win. And he was good to some extent, but his movies always fell flat. Deadpool was his first great blockbuster hit in a long time. I think you remember Buried. That was a very good movie that he made, but made no money. Apart from that, we all remember the big string of flops that he was a part of. So it's you can't forget that he had that kind of history. But because of Deadpool, I think he has been elevated again, and I think he should not actually fall victim to that whole shtick again, where he's trying to cash in on what he has achieved right now. And I think he should stay away from movies like this. If he does, I think he has a great future ahead of him. If he keeps doing movies like this, again, he'll go down the same path.
Moving on from directors with average filmographies to a director who has just hit every ball thrown at her out of the park. Let's talk about Catherine Bigelow's latest film, Detroit. Based on the 1967 Detroit riots, it's being released to commemorate the 50th anniversary of that event. And the premise is the police raid in Detroit in 1967 resulted in one of the largest citizen uprisings in the United States history. The story is centered around the Algiers motel incident, which on July 25, 1967, during a racially charged 12th Street riot, it involves the death of 3 black men and the brutal beatings of 9 other people, 7 black men and 2 white women. And this has an amazing star cast. It stars John Boyega, Will Poulter, John Krasinski, and Anthony Mackie. The film will be released on August 4, 2017. The trailer just dropped this week. It looks freaking great. It has all of the elements of everything Catherine Bigelow has done. It's guttural. It looks in your face. It just looks tremendous, and probably we may have a first Oscar-worthy film this early on in the year. What did you guys make of it? Let's start with you, Anirban.
I'm not a big fan of Catherine Bigelow. I know that's contrary to the popular belief that she is a gay director, and probably she is, but not in my book. I first watched Hurt Locker when I was still in Shillong. I was in college, and it didn't move me. I felt like it was way drawn out, and so I felt the same with her next movie. I feel like this is a movie that she might be able to prove her chops in, for me at least. I feel like this is one of the topics which gives her a lot of ammunition to do it properly. The problem with topics like this is you've got to toe the fine line between being very in your face and not being politically very, very true to the situation that was the whole the Detroit riots in this case. So we've got to see what actually happened, how true it remains to the real facts, without being too Hollywoody in this case. So it's got a fantastic cast. I love John Boyega. We all associate him with being Finn, but he has also been part of Attack the Block, which for me was a fantastic movie. That was the first movie I saw from him, and I actually did not first recognize him when I saw him in Star Wars. But then again, this is, as I said, very, very politically charged movie. So she's got her your topic very spot on when it comes to being very relevant to the current topic. How she approaches it will be very interesting to see, and I hope she sort of becomes a legend in my books too.
For me, she's one of the greatest living action directors, like right up there with James Cameron, her former husband. She has done stuff like Near Dark, Zero Dark 30, Hurt Locker, and Point Break, of course. And the surprising thing about this movie is that though it is based in the 60s, it does not look like any movie that is based on the 60s. And just because of that, I think that might be one of the most accurate depictions of that era. Even Spike Lee, when he made Malcolm X, he used the same beats that we see in every movie that is made in that era. But I think over here she has managed to get a tone that I haven't seen ever done before for a period piece. And she has also assembled an amazing cast, as you guys previously mentioned. And one of my favorite actors, who is primarily known for his very expressive eyebrows, Will Poulter. So you might remember him from movies like Son of Rambo and We're the Millers and The Revenant. He's that kid. He's that very annoying kid. So he's an amazing actor, and I think this will be a very breakout role for him. And also for John Boyega, because I think this is first ever big budget movie that isn't a sci-fi. So I'm really looking forward to it. And Catherine Bigelow, like I mentioned before, she's a master of managing situations, and her set pieces are amazing. And I just can't wait to see her take on race relations.
Yes, I think both of you all summed it up beautifully. I think Anir took care of some of the detractions that might be there in this film. Arindam also spoke about all of the positives which both him and I saw in this film. All of these films, all of these things that we're talking, all of the trailers have divided the three of us. Let's speak about something which all of us thought was fucking amazing, and for this we might need some outside help. Let's go talk about Thor Ragnarok. Let me just welcome our guest at this time. This is Mrigank, who is joining us from the Indian Nerve Mansion. How are you doing, Mrigank?
Hey guys, what's up? What's happening?
And how was your China trip?
Yeah, China was good. Like, it was quite surprising in many ways. I never expected China to be pretty much what it was, to be honest. I expected maybe a better version of India, and I think I got a little bit more than I bargained for, but that's like a story for another day.
Let's move on to things that you are here to talk about. Let's talk about Thor Ragnarok, which is intended to be the sequel to 2011's Thor and 2013's Thor: The Dark World. It is the 17th film of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Can you believe that? 17 films. This film is, of course, directed by Taika Waititi, who is a favorite among all of us, and with the screenplay by Emerson, and it stars Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, Cate Blanchett, Idris Elba, Jeff Goldblum, Tessa Thompson, Carl Urban, Mark Ruffalo, and Anthony Hopkins. From all the accounts I've read online and whatever interviews I've seen of the cast members and the people involved in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're saying that this is more of a road film, and it's being shot as a film which has a little bit of a comedic slant than being an all-out comedy like Taika Waititi is known to make. The trailer was fucking brilliant. It was the second-best trailer which came out this week. I absolutely loved the trailer when it first came out, and I loved the song selection. They used Led Zeppelin for this, which was beautiful because the song Led Zeppelin, it actually talks about Vikings and Thor himself. They used Immigrant Song, of course, and if you guys haven't heard that song, what have you been doing with your lives? Go and check that out. Let's start very quickly with Mrigank. What did you make of the trailer, Thor Ragnarok?
I was blown away. I mean, I never expected the trailer to be that amazing, to be honest, because, and we have spoken about this before as well. I'm not a huge fan of Thor movies. Thor 2 was, according to me, if I have to ever rank my Marvel films, I don't know where I'm going to rank each of them, but I'm sure that this is going to be the one which is coming up a cropper, you know what I mean? Coming to the trailer itself, when Entertainment, the magazine, they came out with the first images, the set pictures, I found the get-up for the people a little goofy, but after seeing the trailer, I think it translates really well. I can see what Taika is trying to sort of do with the movie. That was another thing I had little apprehension for, because he has done some amazing movies. Boy was like such a sleeper hit. Same for, Hunt for the Wilder People. But helming Thor, that's like a different thing altogether. But I think he's gonna do a good job. Coming to the trailer itself, like the number of Easter eggs it throws towards us. I mean, you see Loki, you see Hela. I mean, holy shit. I mean, I wish she was throughout, wearing her headgear throughout the movie, because it sort of, harkens back to the comics. What do you guys think about it?
Peter Griffin finally says, you know what grinds my gears? Saying the song from the Thor trailer was ripped off from the Wonder Woman theme. How many times have you seen that comment pop up on your feed? It is so irritating. Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song was written almost 50 years ago. Come on, dude. Know that song. And then also, anyways, this was a treat to watch. We've been hyping this movies ever since our back in January, where we are saying that this is the movie that you should look forward to. And like Mrigank said, after the pics came in, most of the people were making fun, like, what the hell are they doing? Thor movies suck, etc., etc. But for us who have been waiting for, who know what Taika Waititi is capable of, we were like super hyped for this, and boy did he deliver. The set designs especially is what I like geeked out for. I'm so glad we see Jack Kirby's designs literally plastered on the walls on one scene, and even on the gate that Hulk breaks through. They have those signature Jack Kirby designs. And for those who don't know who Jack Kirby is, he was the artist and creator of almost every Marvel superhero movie that you're waiting for. Like, if you know Stanley was the writer, and Jack Kirby was the one who drew all those fantastic pages. Also, if this is the tone that they're going for the Marvel Cosmic Verse, I'm more than up for it. Guardians of the Galaxy and this look like they're cut from the same cloth. Kate Blanchett went from being the Lady of the Light, Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, to literally being the Queen of Hell. I think the first Thor comic that I read, Hela was the villain over there. So I'm very excited for this, and this is by far my most anticipated superhero movie of this year.
It's been ages, but we finally get to see him get his winged helmet from the comics back, although it's like a sci-fi version of the same. It doesn't really have wings, but it really looked awesome, especially with this guy wearing it. And going back to the trailer itself, there are a couple of things which I noticed which sort of look very interesting, especially the fact that when we guys were talking about Ragnarok and it being the destruction of the gods and the destruction of Asgard, it does feel like Loki, when he's sitting with the Grand Master and watching the tournament, I have a feeling that it's Loki who wants Thor back to Asgard after the destruction that it has gone through, which we see in the first half of the trailer. And the other fact being, I'm not very sure how powerful Hela is supposed to be, but one of the biggest things from the trailer, if we take that, is that she is able to destroy Mjolnir. She crushes it with her own hands. It's not really my own theory, but I was just doing some random searches online, and when I came up against one very interesting fact, and that being because the last Infinity Stone has not been discovered yet, what if by some chance it's one of the ways where they introduce the final Infinity Stone into the Marvel universe, which is something which is very exciting.
I think that is the exact way in which they are going to introduce the Soul Stone, which is the final stone that is left to be introduced in the MCU. And I think that is because maybe she possesses it, and maybe that's in her headgear. Oh no, she was not wearing a headgear. Okay, I think because she is in possession of the Soul Stone, she was able to break Mjolnir, which is supposed to be this indestructible thing. So
Exactly.
yeah, you're definitely right on that. I think we should be seeing an Infinity Stone turn up into Thor Ragnarok, because I think that is the last movie going into Infinity War. So I guess
Exactly.
that'll be it. And also, Doctor Strange is going to be in this movie. Everyone seems to have forgotten that he was
Yes.
featured in that post-credit sequence. So it'll be really awesome to see what role Benedict Cumberbatch has to play in this. And since you mentioned the destruction of Asgard, I think we get that scene in which we see that Asgard is blowing up, right? And
Yep.
Thor still has long hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right on all three accounts, and I think we're going to see all that. But it's just that the tone will shift drastically, I feel, from the first 15 to 30 minutes, which will be very dark, like him losing Mjolnir and Asgard, and then that entire buddy cop thing will start. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I think they still have some, things they are still cards they are hiding up the sleeve. Because when you see the trailer, and there are few things that look very different, and especially where you have Thor chained and hanging down. And I think it's where there was a fire demon, right? What's his name now?
I think that's Surtur.
Surtur, yeah. So and he's again an actual Norse god. I have a feeling he's going to be part of this movie too. There have been images which have been leaked from the sets, which sort of point towards the same fact. But I have a feeling it might not be a big thing. It might be just a one-off stop for Thor before he finally makes his way to Sakaar. But I'm interested to see if Surtur is actually going to play a big role in the movie or not.
For me, like I really hope that Surtur's role is in capacity to what Dormammu's was, a very small, minor thing. And I probably think that is what they'll go for because they have established that template, and from what we're seeing,
Yeah.
because we've been given very different things. The first scene is in which Thor is like literally in a very fiery place, so that might just be Surtur. Who knows? So I'm really looking forward to it. Though they managed to spoil it, did you notice there wasn't much outrage? Because people, that is like simple, pure and simple trust. Like we know that Marvel won't just like give away literally in the first glimpses that we are getting for this movie. So that makes me really hopeful, and that is the reason why this is probably our most anticipated movie
I
for
think
the year.
this trailer in itself was one of the best made trailers to come out this year because I personally did not like the Spider-Man one at all, and I'm like really excited for the movie. But I thought the trailer gave away so much that I was very apprehensive, like how this trailer was going to turn out to be. But it's heartening to see this trailer because, to be honest, this is the year where we actually might find Marvel differentiating itself, not like really going into the Avengers storyline too much, while still like sort of finding places to fit them in. Because this year we have three, if I may call it, the indie Marvel movies, because we have Spider-Man: Homecoming, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, which is not any more indie anymore, like because the first one such a huge hit, and then we have Thor Ragnarok, which are all sort of playing on different sort of storylines, and which might or might not tie in, but it doesn't really matter because I think all of them will be a good joyride.
You're very accurate when you say that this is going to be one of those movies that's Marvel movies that's going to blow all the other movies out of the water, pending a few, like Abhishek probably will agree on this one. But I think this is going to be one of those movies that's going to be iconic and it's going to stand out in the whole Marvel universe, the Marvel extended universe. And this looks fantastic not only because we all know Taika Waititi for being the fantastic director he is, but also because the set designs, like Arindam, you said, they look fantastic. And, everything about this, the trailer was so kick-ass that it's actually like your shot of upper that you take and it just transports you right there, and it goes from 0 to 100 in short amount of time that it does. It just takes you there and keeps you there. It's just like one hell of a ride in the trailer itself. And like Mrigank said, I'm not been a fan of Thor movies. I've always been reluctant to watch them in the halls, although I have. But these are not movies that I have really greatly enjoyed. Like Natalie Portman will also agree with me on this one. I think it's great that she's not part of this. At least I hope she's not, because she looked like she was half-assing it throughout the first and the second movie, like it was a big payday for her. But this actually looks like they're living true to the comic book series, as well as the vision that I think is being created for the extended universe, and it all ties up in there. Although one thing that I do have sort of will be contrary to everything that I've just said is I've always imagined Ragnarok to be the one war to end it all, right? So I've always imagined it with a more somber tone rather than the tone that we got in the movie, and so it left me a little bit perplexed as to the direction that it is taking, because I always imagined it to be quite the contrary. And that is not to say that it will not be a fantastic movie, because it just left me a little bit confused, because I was expecting a very dark toned movie. And let's see how it ends up. Although one other thing that I did not like Jeff Goldblum, man. Fuck Jeff Goldblum.
Hey, you aren't a fan of Jeff Goldblum? Come on, man.
I'm not.
What is wrong with you? Why don't you like Jeff Goldblum? What is he ever done?
The first movie that I saw was The Fly, and
Yeah, that will do that to you.
yeah, it was like no, I don't like this guy. It's like he looks like a frog with his big eyes that sort of pop out of his socket, and when he stares at you, it looks so creepy, man. It just doesn't. I don't know. That guy doesn't do it for me. He is good as an actor, but he just doesn't do it for me.
There's some actors who play themselves and you wonder why is this guy playing the same role over and over again. And Jeff Goldblum is one of them who defies the stereotype. If you put his character in Jurassic Park and if you just exchange those characters, you won't see any difference. He just didn't give a fuck in that trailer. He was sitting with Loki and Thor said, okay, he's a friend from work. He didn't give a shit at all. And that's why, people tend to love that guy. He just doesn't give a fuck. He is a version of that phrase. Also, since you mentioned Ragnarok to be the end of all wars, in Norse mythology, it certainly is that. But in Marvel mythology, it might be a spoiler in the third half. I don't know what the script is. I don't know what the story will tend to be. But in Marvel comics, Ragnarok is a clone of Thor. So I'm not sure if that is the reason why they've put in Ragnarok. It could always mean to be the end of all wars, but like Anir said, it could be they could have gone for a darker tone if they had that. But I think there might be a clone of Thor somewhere in the works, maybe Beta Ray Bill. But I'm still waiting because in Planet Hulk, one of the surprise elements in that book was that they had also captured Silver Surfer. So I'm really hoping that Fox and Marvel made a deal and we see some variation of the Silver Surfer in this.
No, I'm glad that you brought up Beta Ray Bill because if you are familiar with the comic books, Beta Ray Bill in fact fights Surtur, a variation of which we will see in this film. Surtur is obviously the Norse mythological character who brings on Ragnarok. So if in case we don't see the character Ragnarok, I hope we see Surtur and I really hope we see Beta Ray Bill because in the hands of any other director, a guy who has the face of a horse will fall flat. But in the hands of Taika Waititi, I think we can expect wonders because he has such a great comedic vision. So let's hope for the best. I really hope we get to see my boy Beta Ray Bill in one of the Marvel films. And speaking about my boys, let's go and talk about the nation's boy, especially if you grew up in the 90s. How can you not be a fan of this man? Let's speak about Sachin Tendulkar. Sachin, A Brilliant Dreams is a biographical documentary film written and directed by James Erskine and produced under the 200 Not Out Productions, a production company owned by Tendulkar himself. This is a biographical film, ladies and gentlemen, and this film is scheduled to be released on 26th May 2017. The trailer dropped this week and it was trending worldwide. In fact, the trailer was not only trending on the India pages, it was trending worldwide. This is a fantastic looking film. It takes archival footage and it intersperses it with a few actors who are portraying Sachin Tendulkar, at least in his formative years. And you get to see all parts of 90s India with cricket serving as a background because as we all know, it's the national pastime here in India. So let's start with you, Mrigank. What did you think about it?
I was more excited about the trailer before it came out than rather after it came out, to be honest, because I thought the trailer, the pseudo docu biography thing did not work for me too much, to be honest. It started off quite well. A lot of people are talking about the background soundtrack which has been composed by A.R. Rahman, which I did not really, I won't say I liked it or maybe disliked it, but it was just one of those soundtracks which sort of swing by without you even registering it. As for the trailer itself, it does start off with, you see the kid who is almost like a resemblance of how Sachin was when he was a kid, and then suddenly it cuts down to him and his family life with the voiceover provided by his wife, and then we see all the tearjerker moments and all the times that he might have helped India through to victory on the cricket field. But I actually expected more out of this movie, especially given the fact that Dhoni's biography, which came out last year, it was a decent enough flick and it had a decent enough actor playing him. But again, I expected this movie to be pretty much on the same lines. But they might have done a good job, the directors, taking this pseudo-docu approach, or it might not be either, because Indian audience, they are very fickle-minded people. I don't see a lot of people thronging to the halls to just see a documentary, even though it's about Sachin, because I'm sure a lot of people who really like Sachin and love him would have seen enough documentaries, online throughout all these years to rather not give a fuck and just maybe stay at home and watch a direct-to-video or something.
I think I will not agree with you on one point. And I didn't see the trailer the day it was posted. I just saw this like a while back before we started recording. And it was #1 trending on YouTube, which is a huge thing for a documentary. I sincerely believe that this is going to be the highest grossing documentary of all time. I think Inconvenient Truth is one which is currently like the most highest grossing. But in terms of Indian sensibilities, I don't think one has come out that has grossed anything or even has been released wide like this one will be. Just because it is Sachin. It's an interesting choice that they made because if it was a normal biopic, it would be a career suicide for any actor to take up that role. Can you imagine doing an impersonation of Sachin Tendulkar? Like just look at what happened to Tanmay Bhatt. If they managed to pull it off, he would be stereotyped. If he did not, then this guy's house would be firebombed or something. So it would be career suicide, and I think there's a smart approach that they have taken into making this what it is, like it's a hybrid film. But the thing that I do not want to see is the horrible ADR which was there. I don't think that it was Sachin's wife who was doing the voiceovers. It was one of those telemarketing ladies. Like, kya aapke ghar mein pareshani hai? Those types of things. That was exactly what I felt. I mapped those voices to some of those ads. So I hope that is not the case over here. And I don't want to see much dramatization. Rather, if they're taking documentary approach, make it well, but since A.R. Rahman is involved, they're gonna go full Bollywood on this. So let's see how it goes through.
I'm never sold on biographies. I've made that very clear number of times, and this is no exception for me. It's actually one of those times when I'm actually confused because not only this feels like a documentary and not a documentary at the same time, that it's sure to divide moviegoers abroad, but for Indian sensibilities, probably because this feels actually like something they would probably show on news channels, And this, when you think about it, the dramatization fits in perfectly with the whole, I don't know what else to call it, India TV crowd, I guess, because you all see all this. The following events have been dramatized and may not be accurate to real life, and that's what I'm expecting. They may not be accurate to real life. Saying that, this has been authorized. So I don't know how to feel about it. I'm not really a big cricket fan. I can safely say that Sachin is still a person that people can look up to. And for me, to some extent, I'll say that he is probably one of the most important people in Indian history. And this is not purely from a sporting perspective, but also from a historical perspective, because no single person has seen the kind of adulation and adoration that this person has. Now, whether that translates into money for the movie producers, that is something that is not in question, because definitely people are going to go watch it. As far as the sensibilities of the movies go, whether it's a documentary or whether it's a pseudo-documentary, that is in itself is something that I'll say will have a lot of doubters. Again, I don't know whether that, I felt like it was really his wife who was doing the voiceover, because again, it makes more sense for her to be doing it rather than not. This movie has the potential to do really well. Be a critical hit, not really, but hit, yes, definitely. Abhishek, I don't know if you're a big cricket fan, but your points.
I'm not a huge cricket fan. I mean, I grew up watching Tendulkar, of course. Even now when he plays these Legends matches, I make it a point to watch him bat because he's been such a huge part of my childhood. I stopped watching cricket probably in the year 99 or 2000 after the match fixing scandal broke. So I'm not really a fan of cricket anymore. I don't really watch a lot of cricket, but Tendulkar, yes. I mean, every kid growing up in the 90s wanted to be Tendulkar, right? Keeping these points in man's mind, I'm really intrigued with this film / documentary. And I really hope that they show how Tendulkar served as a major backdrop to all of the important events of the 1990s. Because you have to remember, if you know your Indian history or even growing up in the 90s, you would know that 90s was the time period where India actually came of age. You had the economy opening up to the foreign market, and you had a lot of investors drawn into India. The middle class rose, and all of this played a crescendo, so as to say. And the master of it all was Tendulkar, at least in the pop culture. So I hope that all of these points are brought across, because his story is a story which has been a part of folklore, so as to say, for everyone who has watched him bat or has looked up to him or has followed cricket as a sport. So that story is something which has been told thousands of times. There have been books about it, there have been documentaries about it, they have served as inspirations for films and plays. So I hope that they take a different slant towards portraying this history of this amazing talent that has been Sachin Tendulkar. So we'll move on to the next bit, but before we do, we would like to thank Mrigank again for taking time out of his busy schedule to be a part of this podcast. Mrigank, we love having you, and next time we want to talk about something Marvel or especially DC related, we would love to have you on.
Thanks a lot. I would love to be here as well.
It's about time, guys, that we discussed anything TV related on this show. And I thought last week, since we spoke about 13 Reasons Why, and all of us have watched the show and to various degrees of liking or disliking, which we'll find out recently, because I haven't spoken to the both of you as how you found the show. Let's speak about and let's kind of do a mini review of the show called 13 Reasons Why. And to help us out, we have a very special guest, Riabaki, who has been a part of this podcast previously as well. He was part of the Sherlock podcast and he was a part of the Rogue One review as well, both of which you can find out on the channel. Just go to our previous videos and you can check that out as well. So we would like to welcome Riabaki from the Indian Nerve stable. Welcome to the show, Riabaki. It's been a while.
Hey, thanks, Abhishek. Yeah, I'm sorry I've been away for a while, but I'm glad to be back. And at the same time, a little depressed because of the subject matter which we are about to talk about.
And for people who have not watched this show, let me just give you a brief rundown of what it is. 13 Reasons Why, of course, is based on the 2007 novels of the same name by J. Asher. The first season consisted of 13 episodes. It's all on Netflix. And all of this was released worldwide on March 31st, 2017. The show, in fact, revolves around a student called Hannah Baker who kills herself after a series of culminating failures brought onto her by select individuals within their school. It was originally conceived as a film set to be released by Universal Pictures with Selena Gomez in the lead role. She even herself, in fact, went out of her way to put the adaptation. And she said, like, let's adapt this as a Netflix series, which was, in fact, in hindsight, a great move. And she herself serves as an executive producer for the show. And as I said last week, Dylan Minnette and Kathleen Langford in her debut role served as the lead characters on the show. Let's start with you, Riabaki. What did you think about 13 Reasons Why?
First of all, I'll say that this is a good show, a very good show indeed. But I will also say that it's the type of show that you only watch once. For example, I can watch Fargo season 1, season 2. I can keep watching them over and over again. And maybe the same goes with Game of Thrones. But regarding this show, it's definitely just a one time only, right? So I would say that it is 50% entertainment and 50% public awareness. It follows a very gradual storyline format and it builds to a conclusively memorable ending, memorable within quotes. My feelings for this show actually polarize, okay, from disturbing and traumatizing to beautiful, at times cliched, important and relevant. I'll say why it's good because it is a teen drama. And what we get from there are a lot of teen movies out there, right? And some of them maybe fall short of on delivering what they want to deliver. But this show has 13 hours, give or take, of time to tell its stories. So, in my opinion, that is where it works. But at the same time, take my advice with a grain of salt because, as I said, it can be traumatizing and disturbing.
For me, it was finally the young adult genre getting its due. Like we had discussed earlier, I think the young adult genre has gotten a very bad vibe ever since Twilight came out. It has been associated with very bad sci-fi concepts which have already been used, just rehashing concepts. I think the last proper young adult movie that we saw was Easy A, and just before that there was Juno. Shows like this and movies like those are the benchmark of what young adults should be like angst done right. And we should thank Selena Gomez for being the executive producer and helping, just her name tag I think was enough for Netflix to finally greenlight it. What I really liked was the first 2 episodes and the last 2 episodes. Like I told you guys, we had discussed earlier as well. There are pacing issues with this show, but that doesn't take away the message from this show. It's a very well written, very well researched, and Abhishek has also mentioned that it goes out of its way to put diversity forward, and I like the way in which they brought diversity in. It wasn't forced, it felt very natural to the story that they were telling. The first 2 episodes for me were the best episodes from the entire season, mainly because I saw that the director who was attached to it was Tom McCarthy. If you don't know who Tom McCarthy is, he's the Oscar-winning director for the movie Spotlight. And that is how you will see the gradual change in tone and the entire. It'll feel like you're watching a different show when you're watching third episode, because it just doesn't seem to go with the first two episodes. The pacing is totally off. So that put me off for quite a bit.
Yeah, if the third episode put you off, I wonder how the later episodes worked on.
Right. No, it put me off due to very technical reasons, not because of the story that they were saying. The pacing was very bad for me, at least just up till the 11th maybe. But I really liked how it ended so strong in the 12th and the 13th. For me, it would be totally different reasons why I wouldn't watch it again. It's just because it's very traumatizing. I wouldn't want to go through things like that again. For similar reasons, I don't watch American History X. And I shared with you guys how I drew parallels to the tone of what this show tried to do and what American History X also tried to do. But that had more to do with race than this had to do with bullying. This might be a bit of spoiler, but really isn't, because the lead character from the synopsis itself, we know that she's dead. And obviously, what I really liked is that they did not shy away from showing that, how she died. Normally in a young adult movie, they would hide it from the kids, literally. But over here, they do not give a shit. They want you to see what a person goes through when they're committing a suicide. And the last time I saw something this harrowing was in a French movie called Martyrs, which was an out-and-out horror movie. This one also, I did not expect it to be this graphic, but they went there, and I was very glad that they did, because for series which had such a strong message, they needed strong visuals, and I'm very glad they went through all that. The last time I was this traumatized watching a suicide scene in a movie was in Shawshank Redemption, and that red was here scene. I think this show needs more viewers, and from what I'm seeing online, I guess that show is getting all the accolades that it needs.
If you look on IMDb right now, currently the rating is like 9 point something or 9 plus. Okay, based on 38,000 reviews. However, I feel that maybe as time goes by, it will go down, right? I mean, it is a good show, but at the same time, it does fall short, as you said, pacing, also the dramatic and very graphical content, and at the same time, I fear that it might get old pretty quickly. I don't feel that this show will really stand the test of time as far as content goes. Obviously, people will look back in time and say that it is a good show, but not really as exceptional as a 9.1 rater would suggest. What do you guys think of that?
Just to add an addendum to whatever Riabaki said, I don't think IMDb ratings are indicative of what a show or a film's quality is. I'm sure, yeah, at most times it gives you a direction kind of where the quality lies. Also, I think this is a show for the times. For the setting that we are in, for the political climate and for the cultural climate that we are in, I think for that, this show deserves a 9.1 or maybe even higher. Yes, granted, the show will get dated over time. It's not a Breaking Bad. It's not a Wire. It's not a Sopranos. It's not one of these shows which will stand the test of time. This is a testament of the current day and age that kids nowadays are going through. And of course, this also captures in a nutshell what we went through when we were in school. I mean, the three of us, at least, Arindam, I, and Riabaki, we grew up in an environment very similar to what Hannah Baker grows up in, because you had to be of a certain mold, you had to fit in with the in crowd, otherwise you were fucking bullied all the time. So for those things, it completely hit home for me personally.
So I'm not going to go very differently on all of what all of you said. This is a one-time watch, not because of how good the show is or how good it isn't, because it is a very good show, but because of the topic in question. And this is a topic that is actually plaguing a lot of children nowadays, and so it becomes very relevant for the age. And as far as I've seen, a lot of young adults are actually connecting their own emotions to this TV series, which makes it very real for them, which is why you're seeing such a huge spike in ratings on IMDb. IMDb is crowdsourced at the end of the day. There have been a lot of detractors against the movie, but if you watch, the TV series, but if you watch it, one thing you'll realize is in the beginning of the show, the reasons they start as very whimsical, and you don't understand why. When we watch the first episode itself, it's not really a valid reason why somebody would in their life. But as the episodes roll on and you see that she is losing her support system one by one, and it starts to make sense. So in that sense, I understand the pacing issue is there, and I felt that too. It's like when you reach the seventh episode, you're wondering why the show feels very different, and why is it so slow in that regard, and it could have been wrapped up in much lesser time. But obviously, this is a TV series that was not bound by any budget constraints, so they had to make each episode an hour long. Hence the pacing issues that you just spoke about. But then again, we see each of those support systems breaking down one by one, and it's painted very nicely, and you understand in the end what's happening to that girl. In Katie Langford, she's done a fantastic job. She's a New Zealander, and this is her first role, and for that I'll actually give her props for this, because she did a fantastic job. Dylan Minnetty has also been fantastic in his role. He plays the longing for that girl to perfection, and I think that's actually that people can relate to with children nowadays, no matter which age you are. Even if you were a kid, you can relate to this, and because you went through something very similar. Schools are a very tough place to be, and if you're not in the correct environment, or say the correct group, so as to say, then school life can be really tough, and we saw that happening in the series, and it happens so gradually that by the end of it, you're really involved in the whole thing, and you understand what's happening. That's why it's a very important TV series. There have been a lot of questions about some people saying that this is not a correct, accurate portrayal of depression or mental health. But I'll actually say to those detractors that no one person actually suffers mental anguish the same way. So this is a portrayal of one of those cases. So it doesn't have to fit into your idea of what mental anguish is. So in that case, it is a very accurate depiction. So you should let that be. What it shows away is not about that girl's problems. What it shows is how she didn't have any support system, which is why she was forced to take that extreme step. In that sense, it is a fantastic TV series, and this is something that everybody should watch, because it is sort of like Riabaki had said, it's sort of like a public service announcement. There's a very important line that is there. Children are cruel without realizing that they're cruel. And that is what actually happens in real life too. Nobody is as mean as most movies portray them to be. You're very subconsciously mean. You don't realize it, and you don't mean it most of the time, but you just are. And how it affects other people is not in your control. But sometimes it does affect them very harshly. And people have problems because of that. And that is something that we have to be more cognizant of. And that is what this TV series is all about. And I'm glad that this got made. I'm not sure whether there will be a second season though, because there have been no talks as of yet. Abhishek, do you have any idea whether there is a second season?
There are no talks of the second season, although the internet is divided whether they want a second season or not, because there have been a lot of open endings there, because there were a lot of plot points. We'll try not to get into spoiler territory here, ladies and gentlemen, but there have been a lot of plot points which have been left unaddressed. So for that, people kind of need closure because of the day and age that we live in. Everyone wants everything to end with a nice bow on the top. But I don't really think that there needs to be a second season. This is Hannah Baker's story. This is not anyone else's story. Her story has ended, and I hope that this story has ended on such a high that let's leave it there. We don't really need to get into what happens to Bryce's character, or what happens to Tony's character, or what happens to Justin's character, or how even the Baker family deals with the whatever happens at the end. We don't really need to know that. It just ended on a very perfect note, and let's just leave it at that. And speaking about perfection, let's speak about the acting. Because the acting, I thought, especially for a cast such as is so young as this, we haven't really seen a lot of these actors in very name shows before. Let's speak about the acting, please, because I thought the acting was brilliant in this. With a lot of great TV right now, we have a lot of great shows, a lot of great actors, top-notch actors acting in the smaller screen. I don't really think that this TV show, like it happened with Stranger Things last year, that these actors will get the recognition that they deserve, and they should, because these guys were fan-fucking-tastic, especially Catherine Langford, as who plays Hannah Baker, the main character of the show. For a debutante, she was incredible. And even Dylan Minnette, he is at the top of his game. This was an incredibly acted film.
The acting in this show was top-notch indeed. I mean, a lot of these actors, I'd never heard of them before, except for, as you said, Dylan Minnette, and Ross Butler, who, if you're following other TV shows which are hot right now, plays Reggie on the Archie comics spin-off Riverdale, who unfortunately has been typecasted, even though he doesn't want to portray Asian stereotypes. He's a jock now in every TV show, apparently. His first 2 TV shows, and he's a jock. But yes, the acting is, I mean, you can't pull off a show like this, which deals with such an important social issue. And yeah, the show is such that it builds on, it's about the impact that this victim faces with every episode. It builds up, right? You see how she's impacted. The most important message of this show is not the suicide per se. It's the fact that we don't really know what, how people are affected by what we say, or how people are suffering, unless we actually reach out to them. And Catherine Langford really nailed this. I mean, I got to this point, like, say, maybe 6 episodes in, that, this was the basic point, because I am a little slow. But then I understood, too, that, man, this girl's performance, she's an Aussie or a Kiwi, as Anir once said, apparently, and, man, her performance is so important to this initially, I'm glad that Selena Gomez decided not to play the lead role, because I don't think she would have the acting chops to pull it off. And it's rounded off by a very good supporting cast. I mean, you really do hate the jocks and the gits and the bullies who do a lot of, bad stuff to her. But at the same time, they also have this other the other side of their story, which shows, what actually led them to be the people that they are. And each of these supporting actors also deserve a lot of kudos for the performance, man.
So the 2 characters that stood out for me, apart from the protagonists themselves, one was Kate Walsh as the mother. I mean, she was fantastic. Yeah. Her scenes were so painful to watch, because you could see the pain in her eyes, and she connected with her character so well that you actually felt really deeply for her grief in each episode, and it was so apparent that you wanted to console her. And the other character that I'll mention is, for a very different reason, it's Christian Navarro as Tony. He is playing a gay guy, but not in the traditional sense. It's so kudos for him to be able to break those stereotypes, that we always associate with gay characters. And this is a very strong gay character. It's not the effeminate gay characters that are usually portrayed on TV or movies. So I'm very glad that they actually have gone ahead and shown a character like this, and he fits in perfectly in that role as well. I think as the friend with an ulterior motive, I think he plays it very perfectly in that sense in the series itself.
For a portrayal of a villain, I haven't seen menace like this since any maybe Stephen King adaptations. Justin Prentice, who played Bryce, who was the main antagonist of the show, I mean, that guy was incredible. Like, you want to show how an asshole is, who just even doesn't realize that he's being a villain, who's being such an entitled person that he, talking about making objects out of women. This guy, lived and breathed that through his character. He was one of my favorites. Also, the portrayal of parents in grief, like the after effects of dealing with a kid who has just committed suicide. Kate Walsh and Brian D'Arcy James were so good in it. Brian D'Arcy James also was in Spotlight, and he played a critical role in that as well. And I love that actor. One of my favorite character actors, Mark Pellegrino, whom you might know from The Big Lebowski, or if you're a fan of Supernatural, he plays Lucifer. He played Alex Standall's dad.
Okay, right. And in the penultimate episode, there's a scene of a ambulance rushing through the streets at night. And the medic in the driver's seat, she says that he or she, I don't remember, says that we have a 17-year-old with a gunshot to their head. I mean, it's not explicitly mentioned who it is, but I assume that it was Alex Standall.
There's never any doubt that he shot himself. That debate is not there. Whether the fact that he was the one who pulled the trigger on himself is the part that I think Arindam and me, we are more in sync with. It seems
Right.
like all the evidence posted in the penultimate episode, they point towards Tyler Down being more deviant than it is being led on. So it actually seems like, and he is the one who was playing with guns. Although Standall's character does have guns with him because his dad is a cop. If you remember, he tried to drown himself, but at the last moment he realized he couldn't go through with it. So I don't think he had the guts to pull the trigger in that sense. I think it is Tyler Down's character who has something to do with it, which is where Abhishek's thing that there's a lot of open endings on this one comes into play, which probably will be resolved if there's a second season. Though I agree with Abhishek when he says that there shouldn't be one. This is Hannah Baker's story, and it should be left alone.
Personally, I don't think that there should be a second season, even though it leads for frustrating endings. I think open endings make for the best of stories. Just look at Inception. Till this date, people, keep on arguing whether if he was living in a reality or not. So I guess these make for better audience interactions, and for years and years it just goes on. And creating a second season will just be overplaying their hand.
So yeah, as Arindam said, I think if they end it where it is, and anthology series work best, I feel, and if they end it where it is, not everything is resolved in real life, and this show, its attempt is to to reveal the issues of real life teenagers. And in real life, nothing is fully resolved immediately. Maybe people will realize something or the other, like 10, 20, 30 years in the future.
Right, you don't really need all the answers. And one thing which this show portrayed beautifully was that the narrator herself was unreliable. There were many parts of the story where you were wondering, wait, is she telling the truth? Because you could always see the story from one person's perspective, and then, like for example, it happened with her, told from her perspective as well. So you get a well-rounded arc as to what was happening. So this, I think, I've never seen this done so beautifully as in this show, because the narrator herself was not really, was coming off from one angle of the story. So granted, most of these people out there were assholes to her. So you never really needed to know why they behaved the way they behaved towards her or what they were towards her. But I think, the fact that Hannah herself had one particular angle that she was going for actually served the story and did not act much as a detriment as I thought it would be. Another thing which did not serve as a detriment was the amazing use of music. I mean, I remember the first episode, as soon as it ended with one of my favorite songs of all time, by one of my favorite bands of all time, Joy Division, and with Love Will Tear Us Apart. And I was hooked since then. I was like, this show has some fucking great music. But, it always serves your audience well when you use good music, when you use good actors. So that's about it. It's a huge thumbs up from me. I would highly recommend that you guys check it out. Let's start with you, Arindam. Would you recommend the show, and what's your rating? For me, it's an A.
Yeah, for me, this is an A as well. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it to everyone who is in school right now to watch it. It's a great show.
Yes, I would highly recommend this show, although, of course, with the warning about, how traumatizing and, some brutal scenes are involved. And also, I would recommend, the impact that this show had on me is similar to the impact that this is a teen genre movie, right? So the impact of another movie was quite similar. This is the movie called Bridge to Terabithia. It's a kids movie, actually, and I watched it when I was quite young. And if you like this, I recommend that you watch that show as well. That's all I'll say for now. And yeah, I would give this show a rating of 8.5, not 9.
Again, same reasons, I've already mentioned them. I'll give it an A.
Let's go and talk about the thing which I personally am really, really, really excited for. Let's go and talk about the most important thing in my life. Let's talk about Star Wars, The Last Jedi, which has been written and directed by Rian Johnson. It stars Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, Lupita Nyong'o, Donald Gleason, Anthony Daniels, Gwendolyn Christie, and Andy Serkis in returning roles. It feels so good to see this. Star Wars is back. We're going to get the new movie. And the new cast members include Benicio del Toro, Laura Dern, Kelly Mary Tran, who of course plays a new character called Rose. And this movie releases December 15th worldwide. So the new trailer dropped this week, and it was... I just was emotional when I watched this trailer. You had the shot of a damaged Luke Skywalker, Rey training with a lightsaber on a cliff. You had epic space battles. The retaliation against the Resistance from the First Order was also shown. It was just what a great teaser trailer should be. A teaser trailer, mind you, that's the operative word. This is exactly what I wanted personally. Let's start with you, Riabaki. What did you think about the new trailer?
I agree with you. Yeah, the teaser was great, but unfortunately, it is a teaser, so it's a big teaser. It only takes us half the way there, as the Beatles mentioned in their famous song "Day Tripper," right? I would really have loved to see more, but yes, I am looking forward to mentioning some rather exciting points. I mean, very suggestive plot points that are suggested in the teaser itself.
It did what a teaser should do. It did excite us, but I wasn't the biggest fan of this teaser. I thought The Force Awakens did a better job. They rehashed a lot of scenes exactly from the Force Awakens teaser. Instead of the X-Wings flying over water, we had those B-Wings flying over a desert which looked giving off some sort of red fumes. But there was a very interesting thing that they were going towards AT-ATs. So I'm looking forward to that battle a lot. What I was more interested in and what I really liked was that Luke Skywalker had a lot to do with it, and I sincerely hope that he does not die in this movie, but contrary to what is being shown, I do think this is the end for Luke Skywalker. Hopefully not, because we won't be seeing General Leia in the last part, and Star Wars movie without any Skywalker just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, when I watched the Thor trailer, I thought it was amazing. It was, and I've spoken about it on the podcast page that we have. And when it comes to watching this trailer, I caught it later than you guys. You guys probably watch it live, so I probably was a few hours late in watching it. Yeah. And as soon as the first credits roll, I knew I was hooked. I am hooked for life. And the scene that actually gave me goosebumps was the one where you see Rey's character touching the ground and learning how to use the Force, and it just transports you back, to the first movies, and then you feel it. You can actually feel the Force when she's using it. You feel it through the screen, and you know that you're hooked, because this is one movie that is going to be the one movie to end it all. I said at the beginning when I was mentioning Thor that this is going to blow all the movies out of the water, except for maybe a few. When I'm talking about except for maybe a few, I'm just talking about one movie in particular, and this is this movie. There's so perfectly crafted teaser trailer, this one is, that it just gives you enough excitement to say that this is going to be great, and it makes you long for the trailer itself, which is a great thing itself. There are a lot of plot points that probably people are aware of that have been given away, but I think those are very minuscule when you compare to the overall scheme of things. I think this is a great trailer, and the whole fact that this is about Rey and how she'll learn to use the Force, and probably this might be the last time that we see Luke Skywalker. That makes it all the more important in the whole canon, Star Wars canon.
This might be the last we see of Luke Skywalker, but like I've been harping on for the past 2 years, this is not going to be the last we see of the Skywalkers, because I genuinely believe that Rey is, and I have some amazing fan theories, and when we keep talking about Star Wars later on in these episodes of the episodes of such podcasts, I'll get into some of these theories, but I don't think this is the last we'll see of Skywalkers. Yes, definitely this just might be the last we see of Luke, because he has had a complete character arc, and I really think that this is the time that Star Wars definitely introduces the Great Jedi Order from the Legends canon and from the Expanded Universe canon. And if you look at the trailer, the trailer suggests that Rian Johnson's sequel, it'll be more darker, it'll be more somber than The Force Awakens, just like The Empire Strikes Back had in comparison to the original movie. And some of that feeling can be chalked up to the second movie in the Star Wars syndrome, because normally even in the original trilogy and even the prequels, the second movie was supposed to be a little bit darker. It worked magnificently with Empire Strikes Back, not so much with Attack of the Clones. And they always set up the third film, which I think will be tremendous. I really think that this movie will be the best Star Wars movie since Empire Strikes Back. We always keep talking about this, but I really think that this might just be because, it's fucking Ryan Johnson. This guy is an amazing, amazing director. Let's get on to Easter eggs, if you will. And here are a couple of things which I noticed. I think, like we mentioned earlier as well in this review, that this trailer will deal with Luke's backstory as to what he has been doing since the events of Return of the Jedi. Also, the first shots looks like Rey having an after effects of a Force vision. We've seen Rey go through the same emotions in The Force Awakens, and I think this is what happens to her in this film as well. Also, there are voices of Leia, Obi-Wan interspersed in the trailer. If you listen very carefully, in the 40-second mark, you can hear the voices of Leia, Obi-Wan, and even Yoda to some extent. Did anyone notice Kylo Ren's scar? I thought it should be more pronounced, but it's not. And I really love the shots of the Knights of Ren slaughtering the new Jedi Temple. This is straight out of the Legends expansion, where Jason Solo actually takes out the new Jedi Temple. And this is something which I really, really loved. What about you guys? Let's start with you, Riabaki. What are the things which you, other than the things I mentioned, which you noticed in the trailer?
Okay, guys, I just have to mention this, that even if there is no Skywalker in the show, in the series, if Luke Skywalker does die and there is no other relation and Rey doesn't end up being, Luke's fourth cousin by his second grandmother or whatever, if that makes sense to you. This is not the Congress Party. We don't need a Gandhi. We don't need a Nehru to, carry it forward. I would be happy if there is just some fresh blood injected into the franchise. Also, what really what spoke out to me from the teaser, I must use these big words, spoke out. The scene of the burning Jedi Temple. I mean, I think that will, it will obviously reveal a lot to us about what transpired earlier, and will also maybe mention a little about why Luke says, that quote that he says in the trailer, in the teaser, that the Jedi must end. Okay, we'll discuss that later. Also, another thing that I noticed was the crushed helmet at the beginning of the teaser. It looks like Kylo Ren's helmet, although I can't make head or tail out of what is that supposed to mean. Is he proud of his scar? Does he want to flaunt his scar, or is it symbolic of anything, or is it just nothing?
I think it is from the great traditions of George Lucas. It's just them trying to create another toy. I think there's a new mask which will be revealed. He became Kylo Ren because of his hate for Han Solo, right? That is the case, and he has already accomplished that. So he does not need to wear that mask anymore. So I think there's a new thing coming, and especially because the roles of Benicio del Toro and many other characters haven't been revealed at all. We did not see anything about the antagonists of the movie, and other than the Knights of Ren destroying the Jedi Temple, I'm not sure if that takes place before the events of Rey meeting Luke at all. But I'm really looking forward to what they have to show. And personally, I won't be checking out the next trailer because they have sold this to me already. They don't need to, even if there wasn't any trailer, I would be watching it first day, first show. So I don't need those things to be spoiled. I want that complete experience going in. So I will love whatever they throw at me. And also, this is the first truly original Star Wars movie since Return of the Jedi. Because ever since then, there has been a sort of catching up that they have been doing. Rogue One was an elaborate way to explain why Death Star exploded with just one photon torpedo going in. And also the prequels were again just catching up to Darth Vader's story. Also, The Force Awakens was the way in which they melded both the worlds. They pulled in the new fans and the old fans, and they gave something that they could agree on. And this one is one in which will have to prove that this is not just another rehashing and just another reboot thing that happens with every franchise. They have to prove that this is not needless. And Ryan Johnson has a tough job ahead of him, but what we've seen from the trailer, it looks visually stunning like all Star Wars movies do, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm glad that you mentioned completely original, because there are a few things from the Legends canon, and as long-time listeners of this podcast know that I'm huge on the Legends canon, the old Star Wars comic books and the novels, that is. there have been a few things which they have been gradually taking from these Legends books. And one of the few things which you saw in this teaser, in fact, we saw in this teaser, was the original Jedi symbol, something which was not there earlier in the Star Wars movies. This is something which has been dealt with extensively in Star Wars Legends of the Jedi. It's directly from the comic books and also the Journal of the Wills. You know, the Journal of the Wills, we saw a shot of it, which it seemed like they were surrounded by trees. And if you are reading, if you're catching up on the original, on the Marvel canon of Star Wars, post Return of the Jedi, Luke and Poe Dameron's mother, in fact, infiltrated an Imperial base to rescue a tree. This tree, in fact, was at the heart of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and it's also widely used in the Clone Wars series as well, and it's force sensitive. So I think that that's where some of the archive, Jedi archive, the journals of the wills from the original George Lucas script is kept in, is what is being shown in the teaser, and also the cave where, or what looks like the cave where Luke is seemingly talking from. I think that is inside the tree, much like Yoda. So these are my couple of thoughts, which I thought, you know, when you mentioned completely original, I think yes, more or less it will be completely new. It will be nothing like we've seen before, but I think they will use a lot of things which have been already established in the Legends canon as well.
Yeah, those are very interesting points, and I think the reason why you're looking at the helmet being removed, apart from what you just mentioned it as being your marketing ploy, I think it's just him being Kylo Ren being forced to admit that he doesn't want to remain behind a mask and just be on the forefront and show people the rage that is burning inside. To that effect, I think the scene where he is holding his lightsaber and it seems like he's manipulating the Force, it's emphasizes on that point where you can see the anger on his face, and it's so evident. That it convinces me that it's just so that you can see all those emotions in his face, that we are seeing the removal of the helmet that has become so iconic right now. And apart from that, the interesting things is I think we'll see Luke Skywalker explaining and exploring the ways of the Force with Rey and trying to explain to her what it actually means and how it can be used, but not in the way that it has traditionally been used by the Jedi. And I think it's to do with him always exploring the ancient Jedi artifacts. That I think we see a shot of that in what looks like a bookshelf, and there's like aging books that we see. There's something that we had discussed, Abhishek, and this was the Grey Jedi. I think Luke comes to your conclusion that the light side and the dark side are two very different for ways to use the Force and lie on the extreme end. And I think the best way to use it is probably lies somewhere that is neither on the dark side nor on the light side, which is why he probably says that it's time for the Jedi to end, because it probably follows a way that is not really conceivable for him to say that it'll lead to the growth of all the species and all the worlds that are there in the Star Wars universe.
Exactly, like that is what even I took away from that. That when he says that it's time for the Jedi to end, it meant that, you know, they have to intermingle with each other. The Force just does not have to be either dark or light side. There has to be a mixture, and that is where the concept of the Grey Jedis, and maybe after the destruction of the Jedi Temple, he realizes that he has to tap into the darkness to actually bring balance to the Force. And I think poster also, you know, subtly hinted towards that, because if you notice that the poster that also came in during the Star Wars celebration that just came in before the trailer was revealed, it was Rey holding up a lightsaber, and then it gradually became red, like it was a blue lightsaber which she has, and it gradually turned into red. I mean, I don't think we can have Rey as a Sith, right? That just can't happen out of nowhere. I think that's an indication of maybe she will channel her rage and she will literally turn it red, which has never happened till now. But I think it's Luke will finally train her to become a great Jedi and maybe just bring an end to the light side of the Force that is there.
Yeah, Arindam, regarding that poster, Arindam, talking about this poster, what came to mind really was Empire Strikes Back. I mean, when the Empire Strikes Back, it's also, we can say that, the darkness struck back. So maybe this is foreboding and foretelling of the tone of the second movie, that there is it is, how do I say, it's going to be a dark setting, and Rey is this one shivering piece of light, that the only hope of, the Jedi against the darkness that is threatening to envelop everything in the galaxy. Because as we know that in the previous movie, fine, at the end Starkiller Base was destroyed, but people keep forgetting that Starkiller Base actually succeeded in destroying the Hosnian system and Hosnian Prime, which was the new capital of the New Republic. So I'm pretty sure that this next movie is going to be pretty dark. Regarding Luke's statement as to why he thinks that the Jedi should end, recently, I don't know, maybe this Mark Hamill, I think he's just trolling fans. He said something like, it is a possibility that Luke Skywalker will turn to the dark side. I didn't take this seriously at all. Okay, I think that is just to throw us off course. Another possibility is maybe like suddenly, all of a sudden now, Luke Skywalker decides to, go to some Newtonian level of philosophical waxing where he theorizes that light can't exist without dark and dark can't exist without light, and as a result every action needs and feeds an equal and opposite reaction, and as a result the Sith cannot exist if there is no Jedi. So maybe that is one interpretation as to why he wants to follow the Grey Jedi Code, if we are assuming that he is a Grey Jedi now. But also, if he is a Grey Jedi now, then would that mean that he is training Rey to be a Grey Jedi? Because so usually Grey Jedi originate from regular Jedi. So I don't know, why would Luke be training Rey to be a Grey Jedi? I don't think that's maybe possible, but I don't think it's that feasible.
See, the concept of Grey Jedi's existing in the Star Wars canon is not new. All right, and it has always existed. I mean, one of the formative Grey Jedis that we know of is Qui-Gon Jinn. He was a Grey Jedi, and so was Ahsoka Tano from Rebels. And this is something which most Star Wars canon has been heavily pointing at. Since the new canon came out, they have been heavily pointing at the existence of a Grey Jedi Order, with Kanan Jarrus being a Grey Jedi, with Bendu from Star Wars Rebels. Both these characters from Star Wars Rebels being Grey Jedis. Ahsoka Tano being a major character in Star Wars Rebels. She is a Grey Jedi, and she probably will make a return in Star Wars Rebels Season 4. So I think this is not a new thing which they are introducing. Also, I really think that what you defined as if there cannot be a light side without a dark side, that is just balancing the Force. That is exactly what Anakin Skywalker was meant to do. And even if you look at the Legends canon, this is something which Darth Malgus wanted to do, was create a rule of two. If there are two Jedi Masters, there have to be two Sith Masters as well. That is basically how the Force should be balanced out. What I need to ask you guys, finally, before we wrap up this discussion and move on to the main event of the evening, that is the Fast and the Furious review, which we have also lined up in this very loaded edition of the Film Geeks podcast. What I need to ask of you is, do you really think that in the next trailers or in the film, will we get Force Ghosts? Because if you have seen the Star Wars panel this year, it was the 40th anniversary, yes, but there was a huge presence by this little-known actor who played Anakin Skywalker. Hayden Christensen was present in all of the press that happened for The Last Jedi. Do you really think that Force Ghosts will make a return? Arindam?
Only if there is a bonfire at the end of Kylo Ren's funeral, I think Force Ghosts will make a return and smile awkwardly. Other than that, I don't think they are making an appearance. I don't see them playing any major part, because if they make an appearance, it will be like the ghost of Jor-El in Man of Steel. And that was some stupid shit. I don't want stuff like this to happen in Star Wars at all. I don't want any sort of Force Ghost interfering.
It cannot be. What you're saying just now is inconceivable to me for one reason alone. That it is the younger version of Darth Vader, not the older version, which was played by a different character altogether, which was voiced by James Earl Jones. So it has to be a different character who resembles the guy who played Darth Vader, the older Darth Vader, not Hayden Christensen.
And my counter to that would be that Hayden Christensen portrayed the greatest Jedi who ever lived. It was Anakin Skywalker. He was the greatest Jedi. After he fell to the dark side, he became the greatest Sith Lord. At least in the canon that there is, he portrayed Darth Vader, and that was a completely different story altogether. But in the movie world, for at least people who have just grown up watching the films, for them, the greatest Jedi who ever lived was Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Anakin Skywalker. So I think that way it makes sense. I completely understand where you're coming from, because he was so bad in that film that you really don't want to watch him. I completely get that. I feel the same way, but it would make sense in a canon way to have Hayden Christensen on as Anakin Skywalker, and I would fucking mark out if I see Hayden Christensen appear in The Last Jedi. Arindam.
Yeah, there are two things that I would like to say. The first is the greatest Jedi who ever lived was Yoda. Anakin Skywalker in any day of the week was not comparable to what Yoda was. So even to say or even to suggest that Anakin Skywalker is the greatest of all time is a joke. And to counterpoint Anir's point, that why they shouldn't have David Prowse, who played the older Anakin Skywalker, is because David Prowse was never shown as David Prowse. I think that was a mistaken continuity in the original movie, because apparently Darth Vader was young when he died and he looked like Hayden Christensen. So if he comes back, obviously he'll choose to come back in a younger, more handsome way. Why would he prefer to be in a burnt out David Prowse ghost, right?
But if you're
We don't know the ways of the Force.
No, but
you can't de-age and have a plastic surgery. You can't have a forced plastic surgery here. This, I don't think it's
when he
possible.
died, with the last scene, right? When Darth Vader dies, his mask is not there. You see his face up close, right? That is enough to convince me that Hayden Christensen should not play. We should have an older guy who... Yeah, but I understand from a very simple point of view that people who do not relate to the original trilogy will not be able to recognize any other character who is there, so they will not be able to put their money behind any other person who is playing that character. So I totally get that, why it'll probably Hayden Christensen, and this will probably be more from a logistical point of view than a logical one. But as I said, I don't want to see him in any way as a Force ghost.
I personally wouldn't mind. I mean, I would like to forget the fact of who plays Darth Vader right now, or who would appear as Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. I would totally be open to Force Ghost, because it would just imply that there is a lot of, like Rogue One, for example. That's a movie without the Force, even though they talked about the Force a lot. I mean, that was just to compensate for the fact that there was no Force. I mean, that was easily observable. I would be totally open to having a Force ghost, either Darth Vader or in his Anakin Skywalker form, whether old or young and handsome. Because I feel it would counterpoint what could be possible if we consider what happened to Rey in The Force Awakens when she discovers Luke's lightsaber, right? And Obi-Wan Kenobi's voice, the late Alec Guinness's voice, was heard saying, "These are your first steps." I mean, I would like to have both ghosts appear at least, and if not to do anything significant, at least to just explain what exactly happened to Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan Kenobi when he collapsed into a bundle of robes, and why they fought like decrepit old men with those lightsabers. But yeah, I wouldn't really mind. I feel that it would be great to the story. It would really help enhance the force characteristic of the movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Anakin Skywalker for the simple reason that another thing, Anakin Skywalker in fact did not die in Mustafar, or he was not Anakin Skywalker that went to Mustafar and fell to the lightsaber for Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker was dead as soon as he killed Mace Windu, threw him off the building. So that's where I at least think that Anakin Skywalker died. But it would be really cool if Luke actually falls midway or after the end of the second half of this film, that Luke dies, and then you have Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost come and finish Rey's training. That would be something really, really cool. It would be a fitting end to the saga of Anakin Skywalker. Again, I would like to thank Riabaki for your participation in this discussion. Thank you very much, dude. And every time we speak about Star Wars, I would really love to have you on. You bring in some great points. And thank you again for being a part of this show.
I'm really looking forward to the second lightsaber battle, right? In the teaser, it's shown Rey running with a lightsaber, and I'm sure this time it would be like legit awesome quality, man. And yeah, that's one part that I'm really looking forward to. And yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, I'd be glad to join in.
Speaking about franchises and sagas, let's go on and very quickly talk about the main event of the evening. Holy shit, what a film. Okay, how many have the both of you all watched this? Because what we're going to talk about is The Fate of the Furious, or alternatively known as The Fast and the Furious 8 or Fast 8. And it's directed by F. Gary Gray, the guy who directed Straight Outta Compton. He's one of my favorite working directors currently. And the film stars, of course, Vin Diesel. In fact, this is a family, and it's headed by Vin Diesel. And it also includes Dwayne Johnson, the newest entrance to the family, Jason Statham, and Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Chris Ludacris Bridges, Scott Eastwood, Natalie Manuel, Kurt Russell, and Charlize Theron. Fate of the Furious follows Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel's character, who has settled down with his wife in Cuba. And until cyber terrorist Cypher coerces him into working for her and turns him against his team. All of this is nothing surprising. It's all mentioned in the trailers. So if you watch the trailers, that is the entire story. And currently, surprisingly, this is at 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. I know, Anirban, you watched this. What did you think about this?
I watched this movie, but I won't be able to present a fair point, mostly because I hated this movie from the first scene to the last. And that is not an indication of how good the action scenes are, because they are outlandish. So there's that. If you love those kinds of scenes, this is a movie for you. If you don't love those kind of scenes and you feel that these kind of scenes have been overdone to that, then yeah, this is not a movie for you. So it's one of those movies that I'm surprised is at 64% on IMDb. Probably will go down as the days go on, mostly because, as I said, this is a shit movie, and you can paste any dialogue from any of the other Fast and Furious movies into this one, and nobody will even notice, because as Abhishek said, all the whole plot line is there, right there in the trailer. So why you'll bother watching this for any other reason other than the action scenes is beyond me. You have got to be a massive, massive fan of the series to be really excited by this movie. And I mean that in the kindest way possible. This is a waste of my time. This was a massive waste of my time. I mean, there's so many plot holes that it's just mind-boggling that people will actually make garbage like this. But it's even more mind-boggling that people actually go to watch movies like this and they genuinely come out of the hall. And you know what? This is the thing. Okay, every time I come out of the hall, I'm like, this was a massive waste of my time. I hear half the people, oh, kya fadu action scenes tabe, and I'm like, I'm surely living in an alternate universe where people have gone bonkers. But the truth is, they are not. I am the one who is probably the bonkers one, because I did not like it at all. I'm going to leave it at that, because saying anything else will probably mean that I'll go into a full-on spoilery discussion, which I don't want to do.
I completely understand where you're coming from. I get it that you didn't enjoy the film, but did you expect anything else? What else did you expect? I love the film. The only reason why I felt so positively about this film is it delivers everything that it promises. It delivers over the top. This stopped being a film franchise a long time ago. You have to understand that. I think the way you feel, I would feel the same way if I went in with some level of expectation. I had no expectations from this film. I know exactly what I was getting into. This is a superhero franchise now. Okay, you have to look at it that way. This guy is fucking impervious to fire. The Rock is impervious to bullets. I mean, they have cars falling out of the sky. Rock fucking turns a goddamn torpedo onto an oncoming car, or onto an oncoming tank for that matter. What else do you expect? This is supposed to be over the top, and if you go in with that mindset, which I think many people are actually going in with that mindset, that this is going to be over the top, full masala film, then you will not be disappointed and it'll be a great time at the films. Like, I had a lot of fun because I knew exactly what I was getting into. Like I said, there's nothing much to say about the plot. There is no spoilers. There's just one small little thing which ties it on to the Fast Five films. If you, I won't really give that out to you guys. You guys should go and check it out. But I really think that if you are going into the films just to have a good time, not, put all your burdens away, just for 2 hours, completely shut yourself down and enjoy the explosion that you would see on the screen, this is a really good time. And of course, there are moments in this over-the-top, ludicrous film that there are moments where even you, if you have going on with that perception that this movie will not surprise you, there are parts where you'll be like, what the fuck is going on? Because there are scenes which are so over the top that I think the only way they can top whatever they've shown in this movie is if they take this to space. Because they have exploited everything that there is to exploit. They bring in nuclear weapons in this film. What else is there left? So for me, if I have to wrap up this very quick review of Fast and the Furious, I think this is a really good time at the films. 1 thumbs up. This is a solid B for me.
B is what is the lowest that I can go? That's the rating I'll give. What's the lowest I can
The
go?
lowest is F.
That's where I'll be. And I'll tell you.
No. I'll cut that out. When I said your name, you have to say I'll give it an F and then move on.
No, that was deliberate.
And give your reasons.
That was deliberate.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
That was very deliberate. I'll tell you why exactly, okay? Because the Fast and Furious, as I said, it's one continuous horseshit that has been fed to us since I can't even remember the first movie when it came out. But it has got like awesome one-liners. But please don't go totally on this, because based on Arindam's review and mine, you'll get a very movie that has been painted on opposite sides of the spectrum. But what I'm truly trying to say is that, like in this panel and in real life, probably 2 type of people who will go to watch this movie. One who who expect a good movie and they won't get it, so they'll be disappointed. And the other who are only expecting the kind of stuff that you get in the Fast and Furious movies, who will definitely enjoy this movie. So if you are the latter kind, please go and watch this movie. If you're not, stay at home or watch another movie.
Cool. So you guys can decide for yourself. If you've come to expect complete bullshit, over the top action, you guys should definitely check this out. But if you want a serious film, this is not the movie that you're looking for. And that brings our show to a close. A very, very, very long edition of the Film Geeks podcast. Thank you again for your patience if you stuck this far. I would like it that if you go to your Facebook account and like our Facebook page. Again, I would like to thank Riabaki and Mrigank for joining in. We would like to have more of our guests as and when we can. Please ensure that you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell icon. The link is, of course, of our Facebook page, of course, is in our description. You can also, as always, find us on YouTube at youtube.com/Indian Nerve, at Facebook at facebook.com/filmgeekspodcast, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Indian Nerve, on Instagram at instagram.com/Indian Nerve, or visit us at www.indiannerve.com/podcast if you want to check out our previous episodes. I would like to thank again all your listeners for your time. Please like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. And from all of us here, wherever you're listening to, we hope you're having a great day, and may the force be with you always. Bye-bye.